My dear darlings, welcome again to a new episode. A problem most beginners have is that sometimes Unity hangs or crashes when you try to play your game. This is not something that happens every day, but unfortunately often this occurs when you forget to save your scene after having working on it for several hours. As you may imagine, when this happens, you lose all your work. And even when the autosave is a feature widely requested by the community, the developers haven't implemented it yet. So, the first thing we're going to add to our project is an autosave function. Is quite easy, and can keep us safe in such situations. This will be our first coding experience. We're going to start by creating a folder to contain our programs, also known as scripts. First, right-click over the project folder and select Create, and then Folder. Type Scripts and hit Enter. Since the script we're going to create is a tool for the editor and not part of the actual project, Unity requires us to store it inside a folder named Editor. We're going to create this folder inside Scripts. So, again, right-click over Scripts and select Create, and then Folder. Type Editor and hit Enter. Right-click over Editor, select Create, and then C# Script. Type Autosave and hit Enter. Double-click on Autosave to open the script editor. This may take a few minutes. Once inside the editor you will see something similar to this. Select all the text, and delete it. It would be a titanic job to write a useful script from absolute nothing. To make our lives easier, the language comes equipped with a set of predefined modules which we can use directly. Each predefined module is packed into what's known as a namespace. Namespaces prevent name collisions. Name collisions occur when you try to integrate two different components with the same name inside a single script. For example, Microsoft has included a random number generator as part of the standard C# system, but Unity also has its own random number generator. And both have the same name, random. Without namespaces, we wouldn't be able to use these two modules within the same script, since that would generate a name collision. But thanks to namespaces, we can use all the components of both modules, including the random number generators, in the same script, without any worries. The first thing we do when we write a C# script is to specify which namespaces contain the components we're going to use. In this case, our script will modify the default behavior of the Unity editor, so we need to use the Unity editor namespace. Saving a scene is a scene management task, so we need the scene management namespace, which is a sub-module of the Unity editor. In C#, we use a dot to indicate that the name on the right side is contained in the element on the left side. For example, in this line, we're specifying that we're going to use the scene management namespace, which is a sub-module of the Unity editor. All programming languages have punctuation rules we must follow. In C#, we use a semicolon to indicate the end of an instruction. The second step is to give our script a namespace. This is optional. You can omit it if you wish. But you never know when you're going to need to use a module which could potentially generate a name collision. This is especially true in Unity, as it is very easy to get assets from third-party developers. That's why I always use my own personal namespace on each and every script I write. And I think you should too. You can use whatever name you like as your personal brand. Please notice the curly braces. Curly braces indicate that the code inside belongs to the preceding declaration. In old languages, we had to use the words begin and end instead, but the concept remains the same. Whatever is inside belongs to the preceding statement. As you may guess, the rest of the code will be contained inside these curly braces. C# is an object-oriented programming language. Because of that, we need to think in terms of objects. Objects are sets of data, procedures, or any combination of both. To create an object, we need first to define the characteristics that all the objects of that kind will have. Think of it as a sort of blueprint that would be used to manufacture real-life objects. In C#, we call such blueprints classes. So, we can say the basic building block is the class. The third step is to define the class. We're going to name it Autosave. Similarly, as in the namespace declaration, the curly braces serve to group the elements that will define the class. We call each element member. If a member defines a piece of data, we call it property, and if defines a procedure, we call it method. We need a way to tell the editor to initialize this class when it's starting. To achieve that, we have to include a special attribute, initialize on load. This will force the editor to initialize the class as part of its loading process. Constructors are special methods that are executed when an object has been created or the class initialized, which means we need a constructor on our class. To declare a constructor, we only need to declare a method with the same name as the class. In this case, Autosave. Please notice that we declared the class as public. We need this class to be public in order to be accessible by the editor. Please also notice the constructor is declared as static. We normally don't do that. But in this case, we're not creating any objects, we're just initializing the class. That's why we need to declare the constructor as static. The goal of this constructor is to subscribe for notifications whenever we change the play mode state. Or in other words, when we click on these buttons. We need a second method to do the actual work. We're going to name this method save before run. When declaring a method, we must specify a list of parameters that such method is going to need in order to function. The parameters list must be specified inside parenthesis. It can be empty if the method doesn't need any parameters, as you can see here. Methods also need to generate a piece of data, which is called return value. In this example, we don't need our method to generate any return value. So, we declare the return value as void. One important detail we must remember is that constructors never generate any return value, which means we must omit the return value declaration, as you can see here. The notification we're going to receive contains a parameter that will tell us why it was generated. We need to use this value to determine the right moment to save our scene. So we need to include this in our parameters list. In C#, we must declare which data type we are referring to. In this case, the data type will be play mode state change, and we'll name it state. Now, we can start writing the procedure. First, we need to test if the notification was sent because we're leaving edit mode. Play mode state change is an enumerator, which means it is a list of values represented by names to make the program more readable. Please remember that in C# we must use two equal signs when we mean is equal to. If we use a single equal sign, we mean assign this value. So, if, and only if, we're exiting edit mode. We use the editor scene manager to save any open scenes. We will also use the asset database to save any open assets. And that's all for this method. Now, we can use it to subscribe to the play mode state changed event notification. Please be aware that the editor application class contains two methods with almost the same name. In one of them the m of mode is lowercase, this one is obsolete and is not compatible with our design. The one we want has the m of mode in uppercase, so make sure to type an uppercase M here. And with that, we're done. Just save the file and return to Unity. Open the console window. If you did everything right, it must be empty. If you made a typo, or if you didn't copy the code exactly as it was shown here, you may see one or more error messages. Please let me know on the comment section down below. Let's recap. The script works as follows. First, we hook into the editor's loading process. Thus, when the editor is loading, it initializes our class by calling its constructor. Second, the constructor then subscribes for play mode state change notifications by adding the save before run method to the notification list. Third, whenever we enter or leave play mode, the editor calls our save before run method. The notification contains a state parameter which tells us the reason why the notification was generated. Fourth, we test if the value of state is equal to exiting edit mode. And if this is true, we save any open scenes and any unsaved assets. That's it. Simple and easy. Please don't worry if you didn't understand everything. With practice and time you will master the art of coding. That's all for this episode. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share. If you want me to create more tutorial videos like this one, please consider subscribing if you haven't done it yet. Also, please click on the notification bell and select all. That way you won't miss any new episode. This is very important, so please don't forget to do it. I'm April McQueen. Cheers, my darlings.